Good afternoon and welcome to Painting with Tanya. Today our watercolor project is going to be some cactus. So the great thing about watercolor is that it is very versatile, and using water or more water or less water can make a difference in the type and style of paintings that you can accomplish. So we've got our cactus project today, and there's just a couple of different varieties that are we're going to paint today. You may recognize some of these. I don't know the official names, so we're just going to skip that part. And here's another example. So let's get started. I am using today my Winsor Newton watercolor paints. They're my favorite. And that's what I started using when I started taking classes, and that's what I continue to use. We're also going to be working with a Fabriano 140 pounds, 25% cotton watercolor paper. This is a hot press. I've got my gator board, and then I have my paper. So for your project, you're going to decide whether or not you're going to do the vertical or the horizontal version for your painting. So this one has a little bit of variety where I can add rocks in. This one I don't have so much that I can add some rocks in. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this painting here, so we have some extra space in that we can work in some more designs if we have some time. So I've got my paper and my handy dandy gator board. So my gator board, if you've taken any other video tutorial classes with me, you know that I purchase the plastic corrugated material from the hardware store, and then I just cut it up to various sizes depending upon what size paper or what size project that I have to work on. In addition to these items, I have my paintbrushes. I'm going to be using a number 16 round pencil. This is a number 3 script liner. This is a number 12 round. And I also have a number 10 flat brush. And for making sure that our paint is wet to work with, because you're able to get darker colors, I have my water bottle, and you just spritz your paints, and you can put some water on your palette as well. And I always try to keep some paper towels handy just in case, because we are working with water and sometimes you can correct a mistake that has happened onto your paper. And I have a rag on the side, and then my water bowl for rinsing as I change colors while I'm painting. So if you have any questions, please post those in the comments. And if you would like and subscribe to my channel, that'll help me be able to put out more materials that I can help you with. The colors that we're going to use today, I'll just try to, say them out loud like as we get to them. And I will also try to get that in the description for our class today. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm gonna start out using the number 12. And there are two colors of green there side by side that I use quite frequently. And I've got a sap green. And this one is a deep hooker. So you can kind of see the difference here on the palette. One is darker, deep hooker. This one's got a little bit more yellow. This one has a little bit more blue tone, and it makes it just a little bit darker. So when you mix the two, and you get even a third shade. So that's kind of really nice. So today, earlier I mentioned about the versatility of watercolor paint, and that the less water you use, your painting is different. So we're going to practice a lot of that today. So I'm not going to be using a whole lot of water, but I'm going to start, and I'm going to make a sort of barrel cactus. So I've got a C shape going on. And I did sit down some color in the middle. And then I'm going to be careful with my brush strokes, because the brush strokes help lend some creative. I'm going to kind of get that bottom on there. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And I'm going to kind of flatten this a little bit. But by using your brush strokes in the creative process, it creates the illusion of the rims that are, the ribs actually that are on the cactus. So, you know, we're just going to make sure we're going to keep our lines going up and down, and we're going to try to keep those straight. Instead of just filling in with color, we're going to let our paintbrush, I always say this, but we're going to let our paintbrush help us to do some of the work in this painting. All right, I'm going to pick up just a little bit more. I'm going to pick up some of that darker over there. And I use my palette to mix. Yeah, it makes sure that the color is consistent. Instead of, if I were just to dip into one and dip into the other, I would have paint potentially, paint on one side there was one color, and on the other side there's another color. So by mixing on your palette, you can ensure that the new color that you create, because you've mixed those two colors together, will match somewhat. So we're going to move on. This one is well, I believe the correct name is a prickly pear. So the cactus shape is very much like a paddle. Like if you have played, and I'm making sure, sorry, let me just get this. Okay, so if you've played ping pong, if you've played pickleball, like a paddle shape. So it's not, like this is more a barrel, so it's more rounded, but this one is more of a paddle shape. It's kind of, it's not really circular, it's a bit oblong, and it's round-ish, so it's like an oblong shape. So I'm gonna just pick up some more, and I'm gonna make, this one has little arms that come up. So you notice I normally, when I'm painting, I am for projects that are more you know, less water. I guess that would be, I'm just going to say it that way. And when I'm working on projects that I've gotten other videos for, you notice I'm constantly getting water to bring into my paint. But today I'm not doing that. I do have a little bit of water on the palette, so I am kind of pulling it in a little bit. But if you put too much water, it will degrade the color, and it could make some things happen in your painting that you maybe you know, would have to try to correct later. So we're not going to really do that. So this one, it's got another little paddle over here, and sometimes they even have a smaller one on the top like that. All right, so I'm going to pick up some of this, mix in some of this, and I'm just going to pull all of that together really. And I'm going to come over here, and this is going to be a bigger cactus, and I'm going to start like this. I'm going to just do some shapes, some lines in my shape here, and and you see how I've got variegated colors in there. So we're gonna like that. Okay, all right, I'm just gonna kind of smooth that little edge out, and I'm trying to make a flat bottom as I go. Okay, and now we're gonna do one of those nice tall ones. I do need a touch of water right in there, and let's see, I'm just gonna start, because it's going to be kind of close to this barrel cactus, and a little bit behind it. Then I'm going to round off our top, and I'm going to come down, I'm gonna come in beside here, and I'm letting my paint brush strokes help us create the illusion of our cactus, because it creating the lines that are the ribs on that cactus. All right, and here we go. There we go. Okay, now I still have, this is loaded up with paint. I'm just gonna leave it like that. Normally I would rinse my brush, you know, but today I'm gonna be painting a little differently than I normally do. I've got my flat brush, and I'm gonna pick up some of this dark color over here. This color is called Paynes Gray, and I've got a little brown right here. This is what I used to paint the rock. So I'm just gonna create a mound, and I'm gonna pick up some dark brown. I have water on my palette, so I'm just reaching over, picking up some brown, and I just kind of have a blob of paint here, and I've got a couple of different colors. I might try to pick up some of this brown in here just to make it a little interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna rinse this brush, and I have a couple of tools that I use in my paint toolbox. So this is a piece of plastic that was on a light fixture that I use it so many times. This is just a little piece of plastic. I found it belonged to something, maybe a keychain or something. So when you scrape on this blob that you've got going on over here, and when I scrape, I have paint on here, so I wipe it off on my rack that I have beside me, and I have created a interesting setup here with my rocks. So you notice I kind of got a little carried away with my plastic, so I kind of got a little smear up there, but we can fix that in a minute. We just want to get our rock started and know this is going to incorporate into our overall design. So you can use what you have. Sometimes I have even used a piece of paper, and I folded it, and you can see here where I've done this when I was practicing doing another project. So there's a lot of different tools you have. If you don't have exactly what I have, you can get something that'll have the same results and be very close to what we're working on. So I did not rinse my brush, right? I still have paint on here. So I'm going to come over here, and I do need, when my bristles spread apart, that meant that my brush was really, really dry. So I want the point. So I tipped into the water, and I'm gonna create an arm off to the side on this cactus, and it's just gonna be like that. And I like to make down at the bottom almost like if you were putting a tree branch on, just kind of up and over, and that kind of creates the illusion that it's attached. So now I've got a darker paint right here, so what I'm gonna need to do, let's run that up the edge just like that. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, and this one is gonna be, put a little bit of water there. Okay, this one's going to be on the other side, and there we go. Just try to smooth it out a little bit, so you can see, like, I had a little tiny too much water in this part right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my dry brush, I haven't put this into the water, and I'm going to tap it in, and I'm going to pull out some of that excess water, because if you leave it on there, you're going to have some runs. So you see how dry the paint is, and it gives you just enough difference, you know, that you're using a new. Basically, it makes it totally different, but it is still watercolor. So I did get out of the line just a little bit, so I'm just going to expand that, but that's okay because cactuses are not perfectly straight. All right. So now I still have some paint on my brush. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add some more lines. So it's like a second coat after that first coat dry, and it kind of gives it a different look. So it gives it some character. All right. So I am gonna rinse the brush this time because for the most part we're finished with our cactus here, and I'm gonna be using our pointy. These are round brushes. They're called round brushes. They hold a little bit more water and they have a great tip. So it's a little bit different than if you're using a flat brush. So every brush that you have, it's really good for you to get to practice with it so that you can learn what your brush is capable of doing. So you don't use the wrong brush at the wrong time. And it'll help you be a better painter. All right. So now I'm going to pick up some cadmium red up here. Cadmium red. So it's orangey red, okay? And this is pretty dark, so once you put it down, you know, your color is going to be, and I'm going to use the tip of my brush. I'm going to let my brush do my work. So it's going to be dark when you push this down, okay? So I have a little bit of water in there. I'm just taking my brush, and I wiped it on my towel, and I'm wiping off the excess water. So I'm picking up some more color, and I'm coming in beside it. Let's see. It's not going to be. Let me pick that up. Hold on. We're going to get this right. So that's another thing about working with watercolor in this way that we're working here now. Like you have to, if you need to keep you a separate practice piece of paper on the side so that you can practice, so you know what's going to happen when you touch down, you can do that before you touch down on your project, okay? I always like to practice especially when you're first learning and you're trying something new. You just want to help you. I'm using the tip of my brush, and I'm going to make the flower that's on top of this cactus right here. And yeah, I looked it up. There are pictures out there that there are some large flowers on some cactus. So that's perfectly fine. And I'm just going to I'm going to leave that because it's very wet. Like I had a lot of paint, a lot of water on my brush. So I'm going to have to let that dry right there. And I'm going to look over here. So I'm going to put these prickly pear cactuses. They do have flowers on them. Now, not all flowers bloom on cactus at the same time of the year. So if you've ever lived in New Mexico or Arizona, you know what I'm talking about, or if you're a cactus fan. So for the purposes of our painting, it's not very accurate as to, hey, all of these beautiful cactuses bloom at the same time, because that's just not true. So I've got rose madder that I picked up on I'm using the same brush, and I'm just gonna tap on some. They have some really small blooms, and just an indication. That's all. You know, we know that there are some cactuses that bloom. The taller one here, I'm gonna use a little bit of lemon yellow and cad yellow this right beside it. And you know, one of my favorite yellows is Naples yellow. I love that yellow, but for this one I just wanted a little bit bright, so I'm gonna put in some little blooms on that. So let's see what we got. So we still have this one right here. I'm going to go back to that rose madder, and I'm going to pick up, make it a little bit thicker. And this one, has smaller flowers. And I'm gonna have to turn, so that's the great thing about using the gator board when you're doing projects like this, because I need to be able to turn the paper, and so it's attached, it's not gonna cause me any problems. I can just turn it like that, and I'm gonna just tap in, use the tip of that brush, and I'm gonna make a flower shape. So we're just gonna do like this. Add a few more over here. And yeah, all right. That's that rose madder. So it's very similar to like a raspberry color, honestly. I rinsed out my brush and I took out most of the water, and I'm dipping back over here, and I'm just going to use the tip. Oop, I need a little bit more paint. And this could be like the back side, you know, it's hanging out like this front one here. We see it, it's bigger, it's on this side, but maybe this little flower right here, it's facing the opposite direction. So we're just gonna tap in like that. Okay. And we have them, just rinsing my brush out. So I like to kind of, you know, this is fine. It's kind of interesting. You put a mat on there, you know, it'd just be some fun looking cactus and everything. But I'm going to ground it a little bit, and I'm going to show you how grounding works. So I've got yellow ochre and raw sienna on this section. This is raw sienna. This is yellow ochre. So I just have a blob down. Then I'm going to come back. This is more traditional watercolor style painting, where I have a lot of water on my brush. I have some paint on my paper, my project. And then I'm just going to come in and spread this around. And I'm trying not to pick up the green. You know, I am... because it should be mostly dry, because it's so thick. It's not a lot of water, so it's very thick. So I'm going to come in and use my water. And create some definition, some yellow ochre. And this little, maybe those are little holes. Those could be rabbit tracks. We're not exactly sure about that. Then I'm going to come up here. I'm going to touch into some of my browns. I have, all my browns are side by side because I use them. I know because it's my palette. This brown is raw umber. This brown is Van Dyke brown. It's more traditional brown, like just a traditional crayon brown. This one is sepia, and this one is burnt umber. So I have my 4 browns up here. So I just use them interchangeably. Sometimes I'll use all 4. So I'm going to come in underneath this cactus. I'm going to kind of create some definition, that maybe there's a tiny shadow there. There's some dirt. There might be some pebbles. There could be some grasses. So, yeah. Okay, so you see this right here? This is I'm going to push this up to the camera just a little bit. You see this area right here? This is because the water around this section is flowing with the paint, but this section is dry, and so it is not flowing with the paint, and so that is called a bloom. And I'm gonna I just put water on my brush, and I pulled that bloom out. So this part, when you're using a lot of water, you have to watch it. It's almost like when you're baking a cake, and you know it's almost ready, and you know it's like you watch it, you know, so it doesn't get too burnt. So when you're doing watercolor painting, you have to look out for those things, because sometimes a bloom can be incorporated, but I prefer not to incorporate blooms in my paintings. So that'd be up to you which way you wanted to do that. Then I'm going to pick up some yellow. This is lemon yellow, and this is cad yellow. And I'm going to pop a sun In here, if you feel uncomfortable just doing this freehand, you can put a quarter down, put the top of a water bottle down, and make a circle. Just draw it, sketch it, just light pencil marks, very light pencil marks. So my sun is not perfectly circle, but that's okay. So now I just have water on my brush, and I'm gonna come up over here, and I picked up some paint they had came off, and I'm just gonna kind of sketch in and fill that in, or you can just pick up off your palette and try to make those rocks there more solid instead of the little frayed paint that I had. All right, and another thing you can do, if you are so brave, after this dries, okay, after this whole thing dries, you could take some paper towel, lay it down on top of your painting just like this, and you can flick paint onto your projects, and it'll make it look like there are some rocks and different things down here in this dirt, so, or the sand, you know, it depends on where you are. It could be both. Sometimes in the desert it's a mixture of a little bit of both of those. This flower needs a very dark center, and it is still a little bit wet, so I'm not even going to do anything on that one, but I'm just going to show you on this one. That would be, there we go. All right, so you could do that on the larger one as well, or, you know, or not, however you determine that that's going to be your project. And we are done. We need to sign our project, and after it dries, please. And then on the back, make sure you write down the day that you painted it, and kind of keep track of your progress as an artist. And let me know if any of the tips helped you, and if I can answer any questions, please post those in the comments. Thank you for painting with me, and have a great day.